Hey there everyone. Today I wanted to show off my favorite last Titan standing build for my Titan. This is something that I use on pretty much every map and every last Titan standing game. It may not be like the quote-unquote best or most optimal class, but it's definitely my favorite one to run, one that I have a lot of success with. I still, most of the time, top the leaderboards with, and I generally have a lot of fun with. So without any further ado, let's get started with the loadout. So here's my favorite class in detail. It's going to be an Atlas with an arc cannon using the capacitor attachment, RocketSalvo actually, a Vortex Shield, a dash quick charger, and big punch. I'm going to get into detail of each of these things a little bit later on, but for now, all you need to really know is that this is my preferred loadout, and we'll get into why a little bit later. So first things first, let's talk out my actual playstyle with this loadout. I like to be really super aggressive. So that means that at the start of a round, I want to gain lots of ground fast to keep enemies out of power positions versus my team. So if I end up rushing a lane with my dash quick charger and big punch and find out, hey, there's actually no enemies here, then all of a sudden my rush is going to become extremely effective in that I can now flank enemies, within the first 15 seconds of a game, and we can already have a surround on them, almost like you would see in a StarCraft 2 game with like a Zergling surround or something like that. Essentially, to oversimplify things, we're going to be playing Atlas like a more durable Strider. So we're going to be playing a hit-and-run kind of style. If we end up finding enemies in our lane and we're denying space to them, then we're just going to be playing a guerrilla warfare kind of style. Charge up a shot, poke out from around a corner, take your arc cannon shot, immediately bounce back into cover, and either stick around that cover for 2-3 shots, or just immediately start relocating and moving around. So your enemies don't know where you're going to hit them from next. So with this guerrilla style, you're basically going to accomplish one of two things. Either A, you're going to really hold back enemy titans, force them to advance very slowly, if at all, or even abandon that lane entirely, just because of all the splash damage you're going to be doing to the multiple titans if there's more than one, or your more than competent ability to engage a single titan in 1v1 fights. The second potential option is that you get overwhelmed, that you're fighting in like a 1-on-3 or worse kind of situation, and you're only able to get one shot off before you have to back up. But that's still okay, because during that time you can evaluate, how many titans are coming through this lane, what are their loadouts, what am I guessing their general game plan is, and how can I relocate to really help my team and try to counter that. Regardless of the outcome of your choices, the thing that you really need to keep in mind is that the arc cannon is a hit-and-run weapon, and an Atlas set up this way with both dash quick charger and big punch is built to be a guerrilla warfare style fighter. So you need to get in there, get your damage, and get right back out and either reposition or just reevaluate and see if you're safe enough to poke out and take another shot. Since remember, we're not playing Strider, we're playing Atlas, so we do have a little bit more health than we would otherwise be used to having. So we can take a few shots if we have to, but you're not a frontline soldier. You don't have a 40mm cannon, you're not an ogre. So you need to be very intelligent about your engagements with this loadout. But if you are, then you can last until the very end of games without taking a whole lot of damage and dealing massive damage and just general disarray to an enemy team. So, the arc cannon. Why are we choosing the arc cannon for this particular loadout, other than the fact that you just find it fun? Well, basically, my favorite thing about it is that it's a hit scan area of effect weapon that also can basically obscure enemies' aim. Holy balls. Just listen to that description. It does big damage on a fully charged shot. It's AoE, meaning it's going to bounce from target to target and deal damage to all of them. And it screws up all of their aims by essentially simulating an arc grenade. To a lesser effect, but still. That's great. It requires a charge up, but that's not a terribly bad thing if we're playing a guerrilla warfare kind of style. So really, this is an extremely, really solid weapon for Titan versus Titan engagements. And it fills a role that no other weapon really can. So why are we choosing the arc cannon with the capacitor as opposed to the standard arc cannon? Well, honestly, the best thing about the capacitor is the fact that you can start charging it up, but you don't have to shoot it every time you charge. So that means that you're not revealing your location accidentally. You don't need to cancel your charge with a Vortex Shield or a punch or something, which makes noise and also reveals your location to a 10 of enemies. But the main thing is that you can charge it up until you're ready to shoot. So you can hold it and just edge it, you know. So charge it up, let off your fire trigger, let it deplete a little bit, and then recharge it, and hold it at about 90% ready. And then when you're ready to actually pop around a corner and shoot an enemy, and you're ready to bust, then you can just do it and have absolutely no problems whatsoever. Another reason why the arc cannon is one of my favorites is because enemies are inevitably going to end up standing close to each other. I mean, we are playing Last Titan Standing after all. A lot of lanes are barely wide enough to have two Titans standing right next to each other, shoulder to shoulder within them. So enemies are forced to stand really close to each other if they're all pushing the same lane. So that means by shooting one, you're essentially shooting all of them. So you're going to be doing massive damage to the first Titan that you hit, and you're going to be doing the equivalent of anywhere from 1 to 3 40mm cannon shots to each of those other Titans that your arc cannon bounces to. So you're dealing excellent damage, obscuring the vision of all these enemy Titans, and just generally causing a giant havoc to the enemy team. So next up, let's go into Ordnance. Why do I choose RocketSalvo over any of the other seemingly superior choices? Well, let's keep in mind the general playstyle of this Titan, and if you've forgotten already, we're going to be pushing through lanes. We're going to try and just advance very, very quickly and prevent enemy Titans from gaining certain ground that we don't want them to have. Or if they never even went for that ground, then we get to immediately switch into a sort of hit-and-run guerrilla warfare kind of style where we're flanking enemy Titans. So remember that as I go through each individual ordnance. Multi-target missile system, I'm going to skip for the exact same reason. They're not a very good clutch ordnance. They require a lock-on. I mean, granted, they don't lock on automatically, so you can still use them and be effective with them, but I generally prefer just to have the regular RocketSalvo instead. So what about cluster missile? Why aren't we using the almighty cluster missile that does so much freaking damage to enemy Titans? Well, if we're going to be flanking enemies, then the last thing that we want to do is be putting a cluster missile down, and then after we shoot them with our arc cannon, the enemy decides to run away and go around a corner. Because then, if we try to chase them, well, all of a sudden our cluster missile is impeding our own progress, and we can't chase the enemy Titan that we want to chase. So the cluster missile, just because it's so freaking good, it's hard not to recommend it. So if you wanted to use that instead, you definitely could, but be aware that when you're flanking enemies, you need to shoot that cluster missile very, very far ahead of an enemy Titan. Try to predict where they're going to run to after you reveal yourself with the arc cannon, so that they're going to be forced to take damage from it, and you're not in a position where if you're going to be chasing an enemy Titan that you're going to run through it and end up hurting yourself. So you need to be very careful with it. It's a viable choice, but for all these other kind of, weird situations, the RocketSalvo just seems to be a whole lot better to me. It's free fire, it's very effective within arc cannon range. If you're hitting with all your missiles, or at least most of them, you're going to do somewhere between 3/4 to a full shield. And it also recharges the fastest of all the Titan ordnances. I mean, barring like multi-target missiles, but I mean, those kind of don't count because you're only firing a single missile. And generally, I just think that the RocketSalvo is actually really underrated. It's really, really, really freaking good in my opinion. And to reiterate, it's also really, really good for those, oh crap moments where you and an enemy both come around a corner at the same time. You can immediately put those RocketSalvo down, and because you're probably going to be like point blank range and you do that, you're almost guaranteed for all your missiles to hit, and you're going to take down an enemy's entire shield. So that's absolutely great. So I definitely recommend it, even just for that little bit of, little benefit. Next up, let's talk about the Vortex Shield. Why are we using this over the almighty Electric Smoke? Well, remember, we're playing Last Titan Standing. We're not playing Attrition, we're not playing Hardpoint, or any kind of game type where enemy pilots are going to keep respawning and just not care about their lives and try to always ride you. We're playing Last Titan Standing, where you only die once and then you're dead. You have to wait for the next round. So a lot of times enemy pilots aren't really going to be very ride happy. They're going to try and just shoot you with their anti-Titan weapons from a distance, namely charge rifles a lot of the time. And even if you do have an enemy pilot that does decide to ride you, well, you have all kinds of teammates that can just punch that pilot right off your back, no problem. So really, the Electric Smoke doesn't really help us a whole lot in this situation. And when we're going to be playing our kind of, guerrilla warfare sort of style, Electric Smoke doesn't really help us a whole lot. It's going to hinder us more than help us, because it's going to supply cover to the enemy Titans as well as it does to us, but it's going to give them cover to try and retreat behind. So we generally don't really need it, and plus, it doesn't synergize well with Big Punch that we're using. You know, if we're going to Big Punch them, well, they're going to be completely out of the range of the electric smoke, and that's useless. So you're only going to want to do one or the other to an enemy Titan. So, frankly, the electric smoke doesn't make sense in Last Titan Standing with this particular loadout. It's a good choice, but it doesn't really work for us here. So basically, the Vortex Shield is going to be great for solo defense, for just defending ourselves, making sure that we keep ourselves alive. You know, if we push a little bit too hard, we get a little bit too aggressive, it'll give us a means to mitigate at least a little bit of damage temporarily. So that's even just for that reason alone, the Vortex Shield is a great option for this particular playstyle. But there's a really, really cool little tidbit of info that I want to share with you guys a little bit early here, that I'm going to have another video on coming out soon. But if you're actually watching this now, you're going to get the sneak peek a little bit early. So this kind of secret technique that I'm actually going to finally reveal, it really stems from my Shield Punch video that I released a few days ago. It's kind of an extension of that technique. So if you haven't seen it, then I'm going to put a link in the video right here. You can click the annotation that you're seeing now, or you can just check the description for it. Basically, what that video shows, the kind of executive summary of it, is that when you have an enemy's bullets held up in your Vortex Shield, you know, be it from a 40mm cannon or a chain gun or whatever, anything, any kind of thing that's held up by your Vortex Shield, if you punch while holding your Vortex Shield button, you'll actually reflect everything from the shield and perform the punch at the same time. You know, the animations will combine into one action. So, by doing this, you're saving a whole lot of time and performing a whole lot of damage really, really fast to enemy Titans. Well, there's an extension of this that comes from the arc cannon. So basically, after you take a shot from your arc cannon, normally you're kind of frozen for a fraction of a second, you know, where you can't start charging the arc cannon again. It's busy just cycling or doing, you know, playing whatever animation the arc cannon does immediately after you shoot it. So what you can do with a Vortex Shield is you can take a shot from your arc cannon. As soon as that lightning bolt leaves the arc cannon, you can start holding down your Vortex Shield, and you only have to hold it for just a small fraction of a second, and then you can immediately go into a big punch. So you're essentially doing, you know, a 1-2 punch, literally, with extreme speed that you can't really do with any other combination of equipment. In addition to that, you have to remember that when you big punch an enemy, they're going to be flying backwards in a straight line. So, you know, what is in our ordnance slot that's going to really do a lot of damage to an enemy who's not moving laterally and who we can put all of our missiles into? The RocketSalvo that does 200 damage per rocket versus Titans. So if you're able to get that big combination versus an unsuspecting enemy, holy balls, are you doing a lot of damage to them. So that's just my little secret little tech that I'm going to make a whole other video about later on. You know, so hopefully you guys can apply that, but that's kind of where the whole synergy of all of these ordinances and kits really comes together with this Titan, is when you're able to perform either all of those things all at once to an enemy Titan, or just apply little bits of it here and there in every fight that you have. You can, you know, maximize your damage to enemy Titans while minimizing the damage that you personally take. It's a great tactic that I recommend that all of you, you know, immediately start to learn how to do. So finally, let's just talk about the kits really quick. Dash Quick Charger is pretty self-explanatory. You know, it's going to allow me to dash more frequently and just be as mobile as I possibly can. If Dash Quick Charger isn't your thing, then both Fast Autoloader and Regen Booster are both excellent choices to substitute for that instead. Big Punch, well, I like it just for the mobility boost alone. So if you haven't seen my video about Big Punch's effects on mobility, then you need to check that one out too. And I'm going to leave a link both in the annotation that you're seeing right now, as well as in the description if you wanted to check that one out if you haven't already seen it. Executive summary of that video, if you don't want to go watch it, is basically that an Atlas using both Dash Quick Charger and Big Punch, and who is alternating between using dashes and the Big Punch, is actually just as fast as a Strider who is using dashes only. Well, I mean, sprinting forward and using dashes. They're the same freaking speed. So your Atlas basically becomes as fast as a Strider. So, you know, check out that video if you haven't seen it. It's really informative. This is all just data for you guys, you know, that like data, just to, you know, really to chow down on that kind of stuff. But anyways, back to Big Punch specifically, you know, if it only gave me that bonus to mobility and nothing else, I would still choose this kit. The fact that it does, you know, mega damage to enemy Titans when I melee them with it and sends them flying back is all just a complete bonus. I would choose it even just for the mobility alone. So it's a really, really, really excellent choice of kit, especially for this particular Titan, since if we are flanking an enemy Titan, what happens if, you know, we come up behind them, we don't shoot our arc cannon, but we just punch them right into our friends. You know, like we punch them out of their cover and right into our group of friendly Titans, and they're gonna get messed up real fast. So great choice. I can't recommend it enough. It's an excellent choice of kit for sure. Anyways, that's about all I've got for you guys today. Thank you for watching. I really hope that you learned something new with this video. This has been a real kind of labor of love for me. You know, this is one of the longest videos that I've put out with a whole lot of content in it. I just got Sony Vegas recently, so I'm learning how to use Vegas and just trying to make my videos look nicer and have, you know, better effects with them to better help me, you know, both just to have nice looking gameplay as well as to better illustrate the points that I want to make to you guys. So, you know, hopefully, you know, you appreciate all these efforts. I'm trying to make my videos look better, be more professional to an extent. So, hope you guys liked it. Hope you guys learned something new. Thanks for watching once again. If you like this video, then, you know, please like it, favorite, subscribe, share, all that kind of stuff. And if you don't feel like it, that's okay too. So, again, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time, and enjoy the rest of the gameplay.
Mission complete. Nice work. Rock and rolling.